I'm on.
All right, I've just spotted 3.
That is amazing.
No, it's so delicious. Today I'm going to be making a barbecue deer skewer. This is the rump cap from a sambar deer that I shot late in November last year in the high country of New South Wales. I've really enjoyed engaging with hunting deer. It's touched on a whole bunch of emotions for me. You feel a sense of self-sufficiency. There's so many stages in the day or in the experience of hunting where you need to conduct yourself well and you need to make sure that everything that you're doing, you're caring for that animal in the best way that you can. But even before that, you need to get yourself to a point where your skill set is great enough for you to even be able to get close enough to kill one of these animals. So extremely thankful that we have this meat. This is from the rump cap, the top of the leg. The muscle is used quite a lot. And obviously a deer moves around a lot more than what, a cow or a lamb does. It's really important to age this meat. This is a rump cap that's been aged for 6 weeks in my cool room at home. You can really easily substitute some deer meat for some beef or some lamb if you like. Today I'm gonna go for like an Indonesian-inspired marinade, and there's 2 stages to that marinade. I'm gonna create 2 layers. So I'm gonna marinate my meat, I'm gonna grill that over the fire, and then I'm gonna take half of my mixture, I'm gonna cook that sauce out, and I'm gonna add a butt ton of peanut butter to it. I'm gonna make a really nice satay. So it's kind of like 2 stages of flavor. This is a really, really easy dish to put together. Talk to your butcher, get some meat, get him to slice it thinly for you if you don't feel confident enough to do it. I've actually run a mallet over this, so it's tenderized because I can use the rump cap to either do a schnitzel or I can use it to do a skewer. What we're doing right now is we're going to make our marinade, and it's really, really simple. So I've got ginger, galangal, fresh turmeric, garlic, fresh chili, and I'm also going to be using a fermented chili just to give me 2 stages of flavor with my chili. And then I've got some pretty sad looking coriander, and I'm going to be just using the majority of the stalks of the coriander. They hold a huge amount of flavor and they can handle a lot of high heat. It's basically going to be the fundamentals of this dish. To begin with, I'm just going to take a knob of ginger, probably a little bit bigger than a golf ball size, rough cut. I don't even care about the skin being on there. Same with our turmeric. That's all going in there. Now, this is called galangal. It's bloody tough to cut through, so just be careful with your knife. I find having a thick bladed knife is nice, or a really nice sharp knife. The fresher it is and the younger it is, the softer it's going to be. So if you see a real dried out, shitty looking one at your greengrocer, pass it up. And then we've got our little elephant garlics that I like so much. And then, because I am going 2 stages of chili, depending on how you like it, I'm gonna leave the seeds in 2, and I'm gonna take the seeds out of 2. That's us. We're gonna just throw a little bit of fermented chili. So this is a store-bought fermented chili. You can get that from like good IGAs. This is super easy to make. Take your fresh chilies, seeds and all, put them in your Thermomix, pulp it, weigh it, 2%, so 2% of the total weight, that's your salt content. Blitz it in the thermo, it'll make a wet chili paste. Add your salt to it, sit it in a jar and sit it out on the bench and let it do its thing. It'll ferment and get all gnarly and the lid will want to pop off, but in about 2 weeks you'll have a cracking product. In here I've got some Kecap menace. We're just going to give that a good spray. I've got a little bit of sesame oil. That's obviously just got to lubricate it. Sesame oil is very, very pungent and overpowering. So I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil later on when we thicken this up to make satay sauce. What I really like about this recipe, and I've only just discovered, satay for me has been one of those things that's been a bit of a pain in the ass. I'll start to cook my satay and I'll add my peanuts to it and I find it's just getting so thick. And I've always wanted to add like a coconut milk or a liquid to it. But I've realised now that the peanuts deal with oil so well. So if I'm adding a high quality oil to my sauce, then I can get a really nice emulsification and I can get that consistency that I'm looking for. But what I really like about this is that I make one baseline paste, one goes onto my skewers, and the other paste I then cook out a little bit, add my peanut butter and a touch more fermented chili if I feel it needs it. And then that's what I'm going to finish off my skewers with. Bit of fish sauce in here. And a little bit of tamarind. I remember the first time I tried tamarind was with my grandmother when I was a little kid. She's from Sri Lanka. And we had fresh tamarind and we could like bite it. There's a seed inside of it. The flavour is absolutely amazing. It's really sweet and sour at the same time. It doesn't really like a lot of cooking. But what I'm trying to do with these recipes that I'm creating for you guys is to use stuff that I can find in the regular supermarket because fresh tamarind is a little bit tricky to find. We're going to whiz this up. Okay. I'm happy with how that's looking. And just remember, we're going to add a huge amount of peanut butter to this. So I'm just going to take a couple of spoons, put it into my bowl. And this is going to be my marinade side of things. And then all we're going to do with our deer meat here, I'm just going to slice that into pieces that I think can be quite manageable on a skewer. This is from a deer that Damien and I actually snuck in on. Damien is one of the guys here today. You can't really see him, but because he stands on the other side of this thing. And we set up our base camp and I threw the binos up and had a look around, and in the tree line, probably about 2 kilometres away, I could see a sambar stag, but I didn't realise how big he was. And it was the first day of the trip, and I was like, I'm not going to run after the first animal that we see. We've only just arrived. We need to set up our camp. There's a bit of weather coming in. I got the spotting scope out, which is much higher powered. Had a good look at him, and I was like, oh wow, he's an incredible animal. And he'd bedded down, so I got my kit on, and Damo and I snuck across this marsh. You know, we had good wind in our favour, so the wind was blowing from him towards us. And the guys are at the camp on the spotting scope and they could see the whole thing play out 2 kilometres back. So we snuck in and crept through this bloody boggy marshland area and then snuck up to this rock. Like, I could take my time. There was no stress. He was laying down. Anyway, shot him to the centre of the heart. He got up and ran for a couple of metres and fell down. And then we spent the rest of the afternoon and evening carting him back to camp. And yeah, he's still feeding us today. Even thinking about it and telling you guys this story now, it's just like, it's one of the reasons why you engage with hunting. So I've got a nice cover on my meat. I think it's going to be nice and soft. Now, obviously, the longer that you let this sit in the marinade, the more intense and infused the flavour is going to be. So you can definitely make this and set it aside and utilise it a couple of hours later. The trick here, I'm just going to use a metal skewer, one that's got a nice flat edge on that. You see that? So it won't rotate. And then I'm going to use one clean hand and one dirty hand. And I'm just going to thread all of that. just give them a little bit of a manipulation with how you want them to sit on the skewer so they're roughly even. So we're looking for a pretty similar cook time when they go onto the fire. So we've knocked our skewers over. Happy with how they're looking. We'll let them sort of marinate a little bit. When I'm cooking on the fire, I am going to be using this chili paste here. And because I've got so many raw ingredients that are within this mix, I'm gonna need to cook that out a little bit, and that's gonna develop a little bit more of like a sweeter caramelized flavor, but it'll also take away some of that raw garlic taste and feel to it. So I'll just chuck this straight into my frying pan. I'll put this directly on the coals, give that a little cook out, and I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a nudge along with some more cooking medium. So a bit of soy. We'll just have that around the edges because that'll like fry the edges of the sauce. Now I'm using olive oil. It has nothing to do with Asian cooking whatsoever. I don't really like to consume like the vegetable oils. It's too pungent to use pure sesame oil. So I'm using a lighter olive oil that I can infuse with a lot of sesame oil flavor. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more oil to this. And that's what I'm gonna fry. I'm gonna fry my sauce off and I'm gonna finish it off with this gear. So this is just literally peanuts and salt. That's all this is. We've got our skewers sorted out. We're gonna cook off our paste down at the barbecue. All I need to do to adjust my satay is fresh lime, a little bit of fish sauce, and some peanut butter. And that's it, off we go. All right, barbecue time. So we've let our skewers have a nice little marinade there for a bit. Our fire's looking pretty good. What I need to do now is cook out our sauce and we can finalize our peanut satay. So we need to turn it into that. So all I'm gonna do is just set this on the burners and let fire do its thing. So we'll give that a couple of minutes. So one of the reasons why you make a little bit of a ring of oil around the outside is that it's going to help, if that's all sort of emulsified together, you'll find that it'll start to stick and you've got to spend a lot more time maintaining and managing. It's already got a nice colour, but we'll just cook that out thoroughly. So we're almost on our way here. You can see that, it's starting to cook out a little bit more. And just by giving it a bit of a wriggle around, you can see that it's starting to emulsify together a lot more. Oh yeah, I like that. We're almost there. See how all of a sudden it started to go a bit of a darker color? That is what we're looking for. You're gonna get a nice, dark, rich flavor. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm gonna sit that there. Wind's getting bloody hectic, and it's time to get our deer skewers on. Just give those a little season so I can make it reach. And now, while that's happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off my peanut satay. I'm going to bring the rain on the peanut butter. I want all that fat. That's my best friend. So I'm going to go sort of 2 quite big tablespoons here. Good hit of lime. If you could smell this, you'd be losing your bloody marbles. It smells epic. So it's got a really good depth of flavour, and that's coming because we've started to caramelize up our sweet soy. We've got 2 different types of chilies in there. We have fresh chilies, we have fermented chilies. That's bringing another dynamic to it. Then we have the richness and the fattiness of the peanut butter. And then we've obviously got our fresh turmeric, ginger, galangal, and all of those really aromatic, heavy spices. Honestly, like I sound like a jerk because I'm tooting my own horn, but it's really yum. Look at that shit. I'm pumped. One of the tricks to cooking on the barbecue and cooking with a rump cap is that we don't want to cook this meat too much. We don't want this to be like super cooked all the way through. So we still want it to be really nice and medium rare. It may mean bringing it off a little bit earlier than you think. So I'm really happy with the color that we have on these ones, but I also don't want to take them too far. We don't really need to rest these too much. Like the meat's all thin and marinated. Just gonna give that a little bit of a hit of this gear. And then just make it so there's a little pile there that people can dip it into if they need to. And there we are. That's a deer skewer with peanut satay sauce. It's ugly, but it's delicious. So, yeah, have a crack at it and let me know what you think.